Hey, music lovers, Sara J here. Looking for an inclusive space where you can connect with fellow fans, deep dive into your favorite music, and be a part of something special? Well, look no further. Join us on Patreon, where music and community come together. Get exclusive content, behind the scenes access, and a place to geek out over the artists you love, plus explore music you haven't heard yet. Come hang out with us. Patreon.com/DATC Media Company. That's patreon.com/DATC Media Company. See you there. A member of the DATC Media family. Hey everyone, it's Sara J. Thank you so much for joining me. This week on the show, I am joined by Marty Seed, founder of the Atlanta Canada Fest, for a conversation that really explores the connection between music, culture, and community. And you know, that's what I am all about. Marty is a Halifax native who grew up in multiple cities across both Canada and the US. And we get into how those experiences and the culture shock that came with them helped shape his open-minded approach to music. We talk about his early influences from his grandmother always playing music to his deep maritime roots and how that led to an appreciation for everything from sea shanties to sounds far beyond the mainstream. Marty also shares stories from his time working in bars and nightclubs and what it was like living in New Orleans, a city that's completely immersed in music. We get into Jazz Fest memories, the energy of the local scene, and some great advice if you're planning your first visit. We also dive into Atlanta as a music city, the venues, the diversity of sound, and how the layout of the city itself plays a major role in shaping its scene. And of course, we talk about the Atlanta Canada Fest, now in its 20th year, happening this weekend, Saturday, May 2nd, if you're listening to this when it drops on April 28th. From how it started as a way to connect Canadian expats to what it's grown into today, a celebration of Canadian culture, music, and community. So let's get into it. Here is my conversation with Marty Seed. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
No problem.
I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm very interested of what we're going to talk about.
I think I've got a really nice range of topics here to chat with you about. First of all, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Had a nice fun time in Toronto over the weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm always up there. Well, I'm on a little bit of a medical leave right now, so I wasn't driving as often as I usually do. But usually I'm up there almost every weekend. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I get up in the spring and the fall.
Nice, nice. So where are you? So you're in Georgia. Are you actually like, do you live in Atlanta or where are you located in Georgia?
Well, at the moment, I am about 2 hours north of Toronto at a property that my brother and I inherited that we rent out as an Airbnb, and just doing a little work on that before the summer crowds get here until tomorrow, and then I head back. But I live in the city's called Sandy Springs. It's kind of on the north side of Toronto or Atlanta. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So are you born and raised in Toronto or where are you from originally? Like where are your roots?
Born in Halifax,
Okay.
and mom moved us to Toronto when I was two, and Toronto till I was about 21. And then
Okay.
Ottawa for university, which my time at university there got me pretty much a degree in the bar business, mostly. So I was working in nightclubs there for most of it. Didn't pay attention to school much, and then moved to Halifax and was there for about 4 years. Finished schooling there. Then after graduating, moved to New Orleans for almost 2 years, and then to Atlanta.
Nice.
So, so a little around the way.
I like that. I like that. That's a lot of fun. Nice little
Yeah.
journey all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And what about you?
different cities with all sorts of different things. That's a
Yeah,
lot
no
of fun.
kidding. You you really get the culture shock of the different cities going from Toronto to Ottawa. It's totally different. And then Ottawa to Halifax, 100% different. And then Halifax to New Orleans, it's very similar but different. And I used to say that it's the same party. It's just the bars don't close in New Orleans than in
Interesting.
Halifax. Yeah.
When's the last call in Halifax? Well, back then, I know they changed it here in Buffalo. So back then, when was it?
Oh, so Halifax used to have three different times. I think it was 2:30, or sorry, 12:30 if it was a pub, if I believe, and then 2 o'clock um, if they had a nightclub license, and then it was 3:30 if they were considered a cabaret. So
Okay.
if they had live music, which was very fun back then because all the pubs would be kind of down by the water, so they'd close first, and then you'd move up the hill, and then the next bars would close, and then you move up the hill, and then the cabarets would close, and then everybody's drunk and they all roll downhill. That's what we used to joke. Sometimes that was true.
Sometimes that's what actually happened.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people walk up the hill backwards just to make sure. Yeah,
That brings new meaning to those stories that you would hear, walking uphill both ways, but you weren't going to school, you were doing something else.
that's right. Exactly.
So that actually, I think, makes my next question a little more interesting of you being a music fan and growing up with music and moving all over is interesting kind of addition to that, I think. So talk to me about your love of music growing up and things like that.
Well, there was always music. I grew up. I like to say I had about 16 moms when I was growing up, so
Nice.
I'd always be, being taken care of in different homes and whatnot. And especially with my grandmother, there was always music playing. There was a piano there, records playing. So I guess first love of music was that. And also kind of growing up with that, with the Maritime roots. And I remember my dad playing all the sea shanties when I was a kid, like lullabies with "Farewell to Nova Scotia" and songs like that. Um,
Hmm.
so I always kind of had an affinity for the East Coast music, the Irish music, especially. Um, and then just growing up, I've always just kind of picked up music that I like, and it's not so much, oh, that's popular, I'm going to go listen to it, and things like that. You'd find out so many different things, and um, it's. I'm sure you remember this in high school. You had different cliques that listen to different music, and
Totally.
you had the rappers and the headbangers and whatnot, especially in the schools that I went to. But I kind of I fit in with all of them because I liked all their music. I like the rappers' music. I like the headbangers' music. I was really into new wave in high school. A little bit of punk, a little bit of ska, So I've always been accepting of the different genres and try not to follow the popular music, if that makes any sense.
Totally. So talk about being in New Orleans then. And
Oh,
being,
no.
I mean, it's just, period. There's, you don't have to explain anymore, of course, but talk about being
Yeah.
there, being exposed
And
to the music there.
New Orleans was wild because if you've never been, you never know what day it is. You can walk outside and there's a parade going by. The culture and the music down there, you have such a cross section of different cultures that bring the music from Africa or Caribbean, from the deep South, blues and calypso, Creole, and everything that would be intertwined. And you can pop into any little bar, and you'd have a guy that you would think, this guy should be on a record somewhere. Like just amazing, talented musicians. And it was wild just to be exposed to all of that and have the opportunity to have it so readily available. Like you didn't have to plan your month ahead to go, I want to go see this band. You just pop into some places and people would just show up.
It's
So
awesome.
like you'd have like the Neville brothers, that whole family is so huge down there. You'd just have some of them just pop in from time to time. I don't know if you ever heard the stories of like Harry Connick and his father. So his
Hmm.
father would just show up at different bars and play piano and sing songs, and I think that's how Harry got into it. I was lucky enough, kind of a double edged sword. I got laid off towards the end that I was there, and I had a friend from the gym who was a bouncer at one of the live venues there, place called Howlin' Wolf. Um, and they needed extra door staff for during Jazz Fest because at the festival they have the huge everything there, but also the side venues would be packed up during Jazz Fest. So I got to work there for 2 weeks during Jazz Fest, and just the exposure to everything there was wild because you'd get um, what's the guy's name? The guy from Primus.
Les Claypool.
Yeah, Les Claypool would just show up every night, and it didn't matter if there was a DJ, there could be a rap band, it could be anything. You just sit in with anybody. One
That's
night
amazing.
we'd have to get there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to help load in the bands, and we'd leave at, I think the last band would go on at 3 a.m. and we'd get out of there about 6 o'clock in the morning. And you just rinse and repeat for like 2 weeks straight. It was pretty wild. But I remember loading in one band one day, and I'm like, who the hell is this? And it had all these Grateful Dead, spray painted onto all the gear. And is I had no idea at the time. It was a band called Rat Dog, and you know, um, I'm like, holy cow, I'm a roadie for the Grateful Dead tonight. So it was kind of cool meeting all them. Yeah,
I bet.
it was wild. And what I really loved down there, like I love the parades and just the second line bands and just the music gets everybody going. Just it's so cool to watch all that.
And to just have that atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
especially down there when you hear like second line bands walking by, you just feel happy and it's always a good time.
Yeah. New Orleans is definitely on my bucket list. I've had a couple of trips like fall through on, just not happen to get down there. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not time yet. The right time is still manifesting for me to get down there, but it's definitely on my bucket list.
Well, I'll give you two tips.
Okay.
Go for Jazz Fest if you can.
Okay.
And if you can't, you want to go for Mardi Gras. Find
Okay.
out find out the weekend, the big weekend of Mardi Gras, the one right before Fat Tuesday, and go the weekend before that.
Okay.
So the first
Okay.
weekend of Mardi Gras is always, you don't have all the craziness that's going to show up during the last weekend, and
Yeah.
especially the I, I call it the young rookie crowd that are just there. So you get the same experience, and it's just a little bit more calm, I guess. And you
Okay.
still get to see great parades, and I think that's when Harry Connick's crew rolls through on the Saturday. Usually, he's in a crew
Okay.
called Orpheus, which is just massive. That's
Really?
one of my bucket lists is to be in one of the parades there on one of the floats. You can pay a ton of money to be on one of them, but I'd just like to be invited once.
That sounds like a very cool bucket thing. All right. I'm gonna check in with you in like a few years or something. I'm gonna see it on Facebook or something. I'll be like, he totally did it. Look at this. So I'm interested then with your work with live music and crews and everything. How did all of that come into creating Atlanta Can Fest?
So it's funny that you're wearing a Strictly Hip hat because it was probably it was early 2005, and the Tragically Hip was playing at a venue called the Roxy in Atlanta, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is now the Buckhead Theater. And I was looking around. I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I knew a bunch of Canadians from the hockey community down there. And a friend of mine goes, wouldn't it be cool if we knew when Canadian bands were coming through, and we could promote them and get a bunch of us together at times because we'd run into these people that we'd see at every hip show or if Blue Rodeo was coming through, something like that. And I have a background in IT, so I was like, God, why don't I just give it a shot? So I started an expat group called Atlanta Canadians, atlcanadians.com, just through word of mouth. And it turned out that first year, a friend of mine was a part owner in a brewery, and he was like, Marty, Canada Day happens to be on a Saturday this year. He goes, why don't we have a big party? And we'll call it Canada Fest. I'm like, great, great. And he made the funny statement. He goes, listen, we can do $25, all you can drink. And I went, that sounds like a horrible idea for you, but yeah, let's do it. So, so the first year, yeah, we only had about 50 people there, but it's just something that grew word of mouth. Um,
You guys have been
and
doing this is the 20th year, correct? So I'm assuming that was '05, but then like you just didn't obviously do one
yeah,
during the pandemic. Yeah.
we missed one in 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's grown kind of organically through word of mouth. We have some great sponsors that have come on over the years that help out and which allow us to get bigger bands and bands from Canada or Canadian bands that are routing, which is I think that's the hardest part in putting this all together is getting talent, and especially now um, with the way that the U.S. has set up their visa program for for touring acts. It's so expensive for them to come
Yep.
down from Canada, especially for one-offs
Right.
to do a show. Like to do a show for a five-person band, it's not affordable for the promoters anymore to bring them down for that.
Yep.
So I've this year I'm especially lucky because the guys this will be third time for the Strictly Hip to come down and perform.
Nice.
Um, Love the fact that they're in Buffalo. They don't have to deal with any of the visa stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. And the other band that we have, this is so random. It's a band called the Two Fours,
okay.
and they're based in Atlanta. And I got to see them perform for the first time a couple weeks ago. Great, talented band, and I got to talk to the lead singer John. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, who's Canadian in the band? And he's like, none of us. And I was like, okay, so even bigger question: how the hell does this happen? Like, how do you get a Canadian cover band? Because they just do Canadian covers.
Yeah.
And he's like, people have done like one band tributes or all British rock or all 80s rock. He goes, nobody's ever done a Canadian cover band. And I'm like, no, nobody has. And they do such a great job. Like they're doing like Brian Adams, Nelly Furtado, uh, The Hip, Blue Rodeo, Neil
I
Young,
love this.
Guess Who. It's like genres from the 60s on up, popular to folk artists. And yeah, they're really good. It's husband and wife and a few others, and even their daughters come in, sing backup. It's pretty wild. They're really great.
That sounds like a really fun time.
Yeah.
So tell me what else is going to be going on this year besides music. What else do you guys have going on during the day?
So what we've noticed over the last couple of years is we've become more and more family centric. And last year was the biggest. I've never seen so many kids at this one.
I love that.
So we've kind of moved the time up. It used to go from like 2 o'clock into 1 a.m. And then the more people I talk to, they're like, yeah, we we can't commit to that. We got babysitters and whatnot. So
Yeah,
we do it from basically 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. Um, with making it very family friendly. We have the Atlanta Gladiators, the East Coast hockey league team in town. Their community relations group will come down and they'll do street hockey inside for the kids.
that's
We
fun.
have we have a big inflatable curling rink that
That's
the kids
cool.
play with. I got a face painter for them and a big bouncy house for the first time. I've never done that for them. So that keeps the kids entertained while the parents can enjoy the music and enjoy a couple of beers. It is in a brewery, so uh, great great venue. And if you know Atlanta, it tends to get pretty damn hot pretty damn quickly.
Totally.
So
It does.
so even next week it could be pretty hot. So the good part is all the performances are inside, so it's nice and cool, and then you have an outside portion to it. Um, what else do we have? We have
Talk to me
two
about food. What kind of food do we
two
got?
two food vendors. We have Wild Fries and Pat's Poutine. So we're gonna
Of
have
course.
a little poutine battle for the
I
day.
love this.
Yeah. So they're both great, and I want to see what they come up with. I've left it all carte blanche to them, and for their flavors, they do a bunch of different things. They're both in different areas of town, so it's they're not competing with each other, but and they're both Canadian guys. I believe one guy's I know Pat's Poutine is run by a guy named Tony, and Tony is from Ottawa. And Wild Fries, he's from New Brunswick, I believe.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a little small community that we have down there with the networking group that I started. I think between uh, in-house email list and Facebook, I think we're around 2,500 to 3,000 members now in
That's
in the
incredible.
in the Atlanta area. From what I hear, there's supposed to be like something like 20,000 Canadians in Georgia displaced throughout, mostly Atlanta, Savannah area, I think.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so doors open at 2, and it just goes until the Strictly Hip are done, and then it's time for me to have some fun after.
Yeah, then you're ready to relax. The event is over. I get it. I do major events also, and so I get it. That's when the party for you really
Yeah,
starts. Atlanta is
yeah,
one of my favorite music cities. I've been there a couple of years for different reasons and shows, and I've seen a bunch of shows at the Tabernacle, and I really like Atlanta a lot. What do you think of Atlanta being a music city? You've experienced these other cities in that capacity, so what are your thoughts on Atlanta?
so I think it's still evolving. Like we have, like you said, Tabernacle. We had a couple of venues that closed down, um, or kind of rebranded and moved or whatnot. But I think it's coming back around to be a spot again for the mid-sized bands. Like, of course, we had when those get bands that come through, like you get the huge bands, the Stones and Zach Bryan, are selling out the domes and arenas and whatnot. But the mid-sized venues, I think that's coming back around a lot more. You have places like Tabernacle, the Eastern, um, the Roxy is back up at the Battery, and the Buckhead Theater are all great venues. Um, yeah, it's really coming back, and you get such a diversity in there because you have kind of the crossroads of we're that close to Nashville. We're in the southeast, so you have a lot of that Americana country vibe that will come through there, but you also have a lot of the soul and R&B and rap music coming through as well. And of course, it's a hotbed for R&B and soul and rap down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we get the festivals are coming back too, a lot bigger. I'm
That's a
not sure.
nice thing to see for sure. There was that little bit right after the pandemic where it just seemed like things like that were it was shady there for a minute to see what was going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. I've been hearing. I don't know if you've heard this too, but a lot of I don't know these festivals, mid-sized festivals, aren't getting the attendance that they used to get. But I'm not sure. Is that what you've
And
been
I
hearing as
think a
well?
lot of it is just there's so many different factors. I mean, obviously the economy is definitely a factor, of course. I mean, there is that part of it. But just the logistics and the cost, it just a touring band or any sort of anything. I mean, you're putting on a festival, even a small festival, the expenses and everything else. And so just hiring so many bands to play for a weekend probably just it just costs so much now to do everything and anything, but especially anything that involves a band for sure. It's a lot of money. So I think that's unfortunately the part of it. Let everybody that's going to listen to this, your socials, your website, any of that kind of stuff, take this last like minute to
Yeah,
you
so
know.
everybody can check us out. The website for Canada Fest, which is the biggest thing, is atlantacanadafest.com. And on there, they can get all the information. They can get tickets. One of the biggest things that I'd love people to know, because everybody goes, "Oh my God, I can't bring my whole family there. It's going to be too expensive." Kids 16 and under are admitted free. So that keeps the costs down for everybody. If you buy pre-sale tickets, it's going to save you some bucks. Our socials are at atlantacanadafest.com. Mine is, everybody laughs at it. It's at the underscore party underscore Marty. Uh, that was, I couldn't believe my name was taken on the socials. Marty Seed was taken. So I'm like, all right,
Who is this guy?
yeah, another one of me. That's scary. So
That sounds like that could be a fun other podcast conversation.
yeah, well, definitely. I've always thought like I worked in the bar business for off and on for 20, 25 years. And I always thought it'd be interesting to have a fun bar podcast called like Bar Chronicles, where you just tell stories of different customers and stuff that
Oh my
happened over the years. Because I even on my birthday on Saturday, I got together with some old friends, and I was a bouncer with one in Ottawa. Another one is a head of security at a nightclub in Toronto. We just got to telling stories about different nights. You could just go on for days. I swear.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea for a podcast. So I think you should run with that.
Maybe someday when I get more time.
Well, side note, I help people launch podcasts. So if you're ever serious about it, I know how to
Okay.
help.
So are you coming down next weekend?
I am coming down next weekend. I
Okay.
actually work merch and do some other stuff with the Strictly Hip anyways. I actually just saw them
Okay.
last night. They did their 420 show. I'm going to come and do all sorts of coverage and media stuff and everything. So while
Yeah.
I'm there, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Sarah.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take
Talk
care.
soon. Bye.
Bye.